Distant Secrets. Tell me why you wanted to write this book.
Well, I've gotten older.
have.
You probably can't tell. But
Not at all.
It's been a long life so far, and I just started, as you get older, you start thinking about, well, how have I done? What have I done? And I just was kind of reminiscing, and old high school reunion was getting together, some years ago, and they said, well, tell us what you've been up to, something we can put on our website for everybody to see. And so I sat down and started writing, and I came up with I joke about it in the book, a page and a half. Now look at this, wait a minute, my whole life's only a page and a half. This is sad. And
you've got a lot more to it than that.
that thought kind of stuck with me as some years later after I had more time. I don't work as much now as I used to, so I had free time. And I said, well, I'll just start writing this stuff down. I said, it'd be a real challenge to see if I could just write a book and about what I've done and my experiences. And so I got started on it, and it's finally finished.
Well, okay, so tell me about some of the things. Give people a taste for why I brought up the issue with the raccoons and who you might have a little in common with that look of it. Tell us a little bit about some personal things in this book.
Okay, well, and as the book starts off, I guess I got started in life a little different than a lot of people. I was abandoned and found in a hotel in downtown Atlanta in 1944.
And there was an article in the paper about it,
And
right?
there was an article in the paper back then. And I was adopted and grew up with some wonderful people, my mom and my dad. And they were older when they adopted me, so they died fairly early in my life. So I never knew where I came from or anything like that. Went to get a passport one day to try to go out of the country. I couldn't because my birth certificate was not dated when I was born. It was dated 2 years later. To make that story short, they said, this is no good. You need a real one. I said, well, I can't because the records are sealed.
Yeah.
But then they weren't, because when I finally found out what the records were, the records indicated that no one knew who my mother and father was, and my adoptive parents were both deceased, so they could just open the records. That gave me access to see, I was found, and we saw in the newspaper articles where I was found. And so, well, that was cool. Still didn't know where I came from. Just that I had been abandoned. So that's really a neat story. And don't feel sorry for me. I had a nice life, and just two wonderful people who raised me. And we weren't filthy rich or anything, but we were normal. We had a good life. Then, as I got older, probably about 7 years ago, I decided, I need to look. That curiosity had built up.
Right.
And so I had a DNA test, and it came back with nothing but really distant relatives. And a little while later, I did another DNA test, and same thing, very distant relatives. And then I met someone who does research in this type for business.
Yeah.
And she had found her own parents and started a business looking for parents. And so I teamed up with her. She gave me help. I got a third DNA test. And sure enough, we found a half-sister. And through her, then we located my birth father and my birth mother, and both deceased, but we found their families. And so I had a sister on my mother's side, and I had 3 sisters on my father's side. And it wasn't too terribly long after that. That was a really interesting phone conversation when we started talking.
I know. This is amazing.
And fortunately, and this doesn't happen in all cases, sometimes these things go terribly wrong when you start looking in the past.
Right.
And I was prepared, what's going to happen? As it turned out, it was fine. These people embraced me, and we're all feeling like one family now. They said they had no clue I was around. And then the saga of how I ended up in Atlanta, because these people were in northern United States. And so somehow in 1944, I ended up in Atlanta, Georgia. And we had the darndest time trying to figure out why. And that's in the book, is how I got here.
Yeah. Do you want to tell the story with the raccoons?
Oh, the raccoons.
That you have in common?
Yeah. One of the highlights of this was me being totally unknown to my family, my birth family. And I had no idea of them. They had no idea of me. And so I grew up in the South, they are in the North. just totally different groups. And once we got together and started talking, I was absolutely amazed at how many traits I have that are similar to my birth parents. It's blown me away, actually. I've talked with one of my sister's husbands who was good friends with my father, and he was telling me all these little idiosyncrasies, and I'm thinking, oh my goodness, I do that too,
Yeah.
It was really,
Yeah.
and then on my mother's side, I had some artistic abilities when I was young. I did some paintings in high school. I sold one or two right after high school. 10 years later, I just sit down and I wanted to do a painting. I just did a painting a lot of people seem to like. And then I found out, she was an artist.
Yeah.
She was actually a very well-known artist.
Wow.
And so it's like, okay, I picked up a little bit of that. And when I was looking through, I got the opportunity through my sister, who was her daughter, very gracious person, allowed me in and shared photo albums with me of my mother. And I'm going through it, and I flipped open a page, and she's on her back porch, sitting on a chair, feeding a raccoon by hand. Okay. I've been doing that for 20 years.
It amazed me when you told me that. I don't know anyone else other than you who feeds raccoons by hand, and then your mother did that.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
And she had a bird diary.
Wow.
She was a bird watcher. She had a list of the
It's
birds.
literally in your blood.
She made a list of the birds she saw in her backyard. And it's like,
It's amazing.
that was just strange. And there was a lot of other little things that, were very much alike. And to find these things that we both did, like, that's strange.
That's
really strange.
the whole thing of hand feeding raccoons is amazing.
That was one of the most unusual parts.
So that and many other things in Richard's book. And where can people find the book?
Everywhere now. It's on most online booksellers.
Yeah.
And it's of course it's on Amazon, and it's on Barnes and Noble, and it's on all the others that I've seen. I haven't seen too many that's not
And you
on,
can get an ebook, so it doesn't cost you hardly anything.
$2.99 or $2.95. So I think it's $2.99 for an ebook, $14.95 for the paperback, and I think it's only $21.95 for the hardcover.
Yeah, I'm so excited.
And
Thank you.
it's got some pictures in it and everything, and I think it might be an interesting story.
I think it's a wonderful story.
There's only one
and
way to
thank you
find
for
out.
telling- exactly. Get your book.
Hello, this is Richard Cole. I want to thank each of you for watching, and I want you to subscribe to our YouTube channel, and don't forget to share it.